Hello, everyone. I'm documenting my birthday. I celebrated in Monterey. It was 2023, and it was my 83rd birthday. Little did I know in the future I would have a birthday in Australia, and in 2025, for my 85th birthday, I had it in Iceland, of all places. Anyway, before we go into the birthday party and the tour I had of Monterey, I want to give you an overview of why I have a special place in my heart for Monterey. It all began in 1961-62 when I took a cruise in the Caribbean Sea. Late in 1961, I saw an ad in a paper, and it said that there was a cruise called Windjammers in the Caribbean. I signed up for it, and I'd never been outside the country before, and I flew a jet from O'Hare Airport in Chicago to Miami, and there I took a pusher prop plane that was in the sea and flew off to Bimini and landed in the sea and then up onto the island. And from there we got on the ship, and I think there was about 25 people on the ship and a crew of about 8. And off we sailed, and we celebrated New Year's Eve on an island, had a wonderful time there. And then a couple days later, 2 underwater demolition experts from Canada said they had an extra pair of scuba outfits, and did anybody want to go down with them? And I said, oh yeah, I do. So I watched them closely, put everything on, and we went down for about half an hour for about, I don't know, 80 feet, I guess. We came back up and they said, wow, you were really doing a good job. How long have you been diving? I said, I'd never been diving in my life. They were shocked, but they said I did a good job. And a few days later, we went down again. We saw all kinds of fish and kelp, and trying to think what else we saw down there. We saw those huge fish that they're 300 or 400 pounders, and we saw sharks and all kinds of things. So what a trip that was. My first trip outside the United States and into the ocean, which I love. Now, 20 years later, I was all set to go to Egypt. I had a travel agent, and she had set everything up. And a couple of weeks before I was to leave, I went to the travel agent, and there was a sticky tab on my on the CRT with my name, and I thought that was kind of weird. Why did they have a little sticker on there with my name? And the woman agent said, "Sit down. We have to talk." Fine. She said, well, good news and bad news. The bad news is you can't go to Egypt because they're having riots all over the country. Planes aren't allowed to fly into Cairo. It's just way too dangerous. So we've set up a different trip for you if you're interested. Well, what is it? I asked. They smiled and they said, well, we know that you like to swim and the beaches and so on. We set you up on a trip to Fiji, where you'll fly in and spend a week on the main island with the capital Suva, and a small hotel on the beach, and then we'll take you back to Suva, and then from there you'll get on a ferry and you'll go to a private island with a hotel on there. Very unique, very nice. I had the most wonderful time swimming and scuba diving, and they said that it was actually as good as, if not better than, the Barrier Reef in Australia. And in 2024, when I went to Australia, I had to agree. The diving in Fiji is just wonderful. Well, let's see what's going to happen next. That was 1982. In 1983, I decided maybe after 20 some years of diving, I should take classes and learn how to actually dive. So the YMCA had, in affiliation with a diving company in San Francisco, classes. They were like 2 a week for a month. So we would go every day or every other day and learn all the techniques of diving and how to save somebody underwater and buddy breathing and all that sort of stuff. And then the last week we spent one day going up to Russian River, and there was an underwater national park where no one could fish or do anything, and we swam there. It was unbelievable, all the kelp and the shellfish and fish and everything else down there because it was protected. And the last day then we went down to Monterey, and in Monterey we dove all around the bay. And at the end of the day, then we went in and had a wonderful dinner and cocktails, and they gave everybody their certificate that they had completed the diving classes. So now I was all set to go diving, and I knew what I needed to do. About time, wasn't it? So my friend Naomi and Virginia decided to take me to Monterey for my birthday, and we drove down. It's a beautiful drive along the cliffs of the mountains there along the Pacific Ocean. And we got down there and walked all around. Now, Monterey, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, was a fishing capital of the country and also a cannery where they canned all these fish and everything else that they could get their hands on. Of course, not many years later, air conditioning and freezers and so on came into being, and they could ship fish all over the country and keep them fresh because of the cooling that they had in the trucks and the rail cars. So soon that all came to an end, and it, like many other small cities around California and even in the nation, became tourist hotspots. So here's some of the city itself that you can see and walk around, and lots of homemade products, just like these huge vases that are covered with all these intricate flowers and things. Unbelievable. Of course, we have the famous aquarium. It isn't the biggest in the country or the world. It's actually quite small, but they do such wonderful research. They are especially working with sea otters because they were becoming extinct. So the sea otter population is expanding again. The waters around the bay are, hundreds of feet deep, but a few miles out, it drops down like 2 or 3 miles. Unbelievable. So we've got all kinds of different types of temperature and water flow and everything there. Some of the kelp grows like a foot a day or something. It's unbelievable, and it's a hatchery for fish and all kinds of other types of animals, crabs and so on. So it's a wonderful research center. And then we decided we should drive around past Pebble Beach, which is famous not only for being so beautiful, but it has this unbelievable golf course that overlooks the Pacific Ocean, where they have really fantastic golf course contests there. We weren't sure where to go for dinner, and we drove around some more, and then we ended up in Carmel, and we did some shopping, and then we went in and had a late dinner, and then it was 11 o'clock, so time to go home again. So off on the freeway, we went back home, and a very, very interesting 83rd birthday, and I hope you enjoyed the part about me getting my certificate to go diving after 20 some years. Take care.